Kaido has been defeated and the raid on Onigashima seems to have been a success. But with that in mind, we now have to look towards the future and see what will come from this arc's outcome. To that end, we've come up with 10 things that need to be emphasized and resolved upon the conclusion of WANO. These aren't in any particular order, but that doesn't affect their overall significance. Momo addressing their victory and becoming Shogun. This is probably the most anticipated moment in all of WANO, if not the entire saga. Will Momo become Shogun? Momo taking on the responsibility of being Shogun has been the end goal this whole time. Ever since the death of Oden, Momo has had a huge cross to bear in becoming a leader. This has been one of the driving forces for the arc. Remember back in Udon prison, we saw how hopeless and defeated the prisoners were. The way Wano had become rotten with pollution and poverty had made their lives miserable. And most of these prisoners were either samurai in the past or regular citizens that wanted to fight back against Kaido, but lost. After Luffy and the Scabbards freed the prison, it all came down to Momo. With the appearance of their rightful heir to the shogunate, the people rallied once more behind their new leader and got ready for war. Without Momo, the people of Wano wouldn't have had the will or conviction to fight back for their freedom. And this has been brought up multiple times during the raid as well. A major example is when Kaido had Momo tied up in front of the performance hall and was ready to execute him. However, in chapter 986, he gave Momo the chance to live if he said he wasn't the son of Kozuki Oden. Fearing for his life and wanting to live, Momo didn't bend to Kaido and stated he's Kozuki Momonosuke, the son of Oden and the next shogun of Wano. This further inspired the samurai to fight till the end, no matter the cost. Momo, still an 8-year-old child, stared death in the face and didn't cower away from who he is. Momo made this decision not just for himself, but for his people and country. Probably the biggest decision he made for the sake of his country was making Shinobu age him up 20 years. Doing this allowed Momo to reach adulthood and gain access to his true dragon abilities with better control. The catch was that Momo basically gave up his entire childhood so he could save everyone from Kaido. This was a bold and selfless choice, showing how much Momo had grown during his short time with the Straw Hats. This would then lead to Momo's heroic moment where he stopped Onigashima from falling. However, the moment was a bit underwhelming with all the constant build-up. That's because his real moment to shine wasn't during the raid. It'll be when he addresses the people of Wano to announce the defeat of Kaido and Orochi from their 20-year tyrannical rule. He's been built up to be a leader, and the moment of truth will be when he appears before the people for the first time. However, the only ones that know that Momo is even alive are the samurai fighting on Onigashima. When he faces the people, we'll get the reveal of his adult form, and based on Shinobu's reaction, he may look just like Oden. Then, after addressing his people, Momo will take his rightful spot as Shogun of Wano. With their acceptance, Momo would honor his father's wishes and open Wano's borders. Gear 5's drawbacks. With the battle against Kaido over, we should expect Luffy to experience the drawbacks of his new form. Similar to his previous gears, after effects both short and long lasting seem inevitable. We actually went into full detail on this very topic on the channel already, so if you haven't seen our video on Luffy losing his power, the shocking truth about Gear 5, be sure to check that out. And if you haven't already, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe with notifications on for some plot armor today. But in summary, basically with the end of this battle, we need to see the repercussions of using Gear 5th. How does Gear 5th affect Luffy? Whether or not it shortens Luffy's lifespan with each use, or affects his body in a way where he won't be able to fight how he wants, we need answers to these questions. It could also lead to some interesting battles for Luffy, as he needs to be even more creative to make up for his limitations. This creative new direction could invoke a greater focus on HAKI, which would make sense as HAKI has been pushed to the forefront for most of Wano. Finding out the implications of this power and how it affects Luffy going forward is a necessary plot point that needs addressing. Luffy's growth has been on a constant uptrend for a long time, and some setback is likely on the way. Big Mom's next appearance. After falling off Onigashima due to the combined effort of Kid and Law, Big Mom was last seen thrown into a giant hole and taking an explosion to the face. Now, with the raid seemingly over, it's about time we see how she's doing. The ones who should confirm this for us would have to be Big Mom's crew. But will her crew even find her in that huge pit? A reunion with her crew has been long overdue. Ever since the start of Act 2, Big Mom's crew has been stuck at the entrance of Wano. This was mainly due to the continued interference of several aerial forces, like King and later Marco, as they kept getting knocked down the waterfall. While hilarious each time, we still have to wonder when they'd make their actual appearance. The only one of her children to make it to Wano as well as take part in the raid was Pero Sparrow. And let's be honest, he didn't really do much to affect the overall battle. But back to the topic at hand. With Big Mom now on mainland Wano, it's possible her crew will finally meet back up with her after realizing Kaido's defeat and the state Big Mom is in. They'd most likely retreat for the time being. It's possible that the crew would want to avenge Big Mom, but they might go the smarter route and retreat, since they don't know who beat her or how many enemies they'd have to face. Big Mom's retreat could also lead to her actual battle against Luffy in the future. As we all know, their battle has been set up since the very beginning of the time skip back in Fishman Island. This then got further alluded to with her ship chasing after Caesar until they reached Zou. Not to mention the face-off she had with Luffy during Whole Cake Island, and in that brief skirmish, Luffy clearly was not on her level and was knocked down. Finally, to drive this point home, Big Mom was only in Wano because of Luffy. If Luffy hadn't messed up her plans, then everyone would have only had to battle Kaido in the end. When you actually think about it, that would have made the raid a lot easier for the Alliance, but that's a discussion best left for another time. The point is, Luffy vs Big Mom has been built up for over a decade of the story, and it'd feel like just a waste for all that build up and motivation to be wasted in a fight against characters with no personal connection. While the Law and Kid fight was great, there just wasn't a solid connection between them and Big Mom to justify it being an absolute victory. This is why Big Mom will most likely return in a future arc to settle her score with Luffy. That rematch could very well be during Elbaf, considering Big Mom has a strong connection to the country of giants. Making this the place where the face-off would happen makes complete sense and could actually cap off Big Mom's overall story. Kaido's road poneglyph and information on JOYBOY. Next, we have one of the biggest plot points that needs addressing. Kaido's road poneglyph is a necessary piece of the puzzle for the crew to find Laugh Tale, as it would be the third one they find. Throughout the raid, we've been wondering where this poneglyph is, as we're led to believe it'd be close to Kaido, i.e. Onigashima. This has been further emphasized when during the raid, Law was checking on the lower floors of Onigashima in order to find the poneglyph. He found the A poneglyph, but it was just a standard looking one, and not the red road poneglyph. The red road poneglyph has specific coordinates that could locate Laugh Tale, while a regular one contains information about ancient history and even ancient weapons. Though the question remains, how has this poneglyph been hidden this whole time? Despite the poneglyph's importance, we still haven't gotten an idea of where to find it. This gives off the impression that there may not just be coordinates written on it. Perhaps along with the coordinates, it could even have some information about JOYBOY. It might not be much, but it could be something that paints a picture of who JOYBOY may have been. This may be a bit of a stretch, but with how well hidden this is, we can only assume Oda has some sort of revelation waiting for when his poneglyph is found. I mean, compare finding this poneglyph to how we located Big Mom's. Hers was in a vault along with all her treasure, and Brook managed to sneak in and grab rubbings of the poneglyph. While the poneglyph wasn't the overall objective of Whole Cake, this was still a quick detour that we had during the arc's first half. Kaido's poneglyph is well hidden, and the arc seems to be wrapping up as we speak. I doubt leaving the discovery of this poneglyph till the end wouldn't have any special significance. There's always a reason behind everything in this series, and a connection to JOYBOY might be why Oda's saving it. There's also the idea that Kaido knows more about JOYBOY than we thought. He's known King for a long time, and King knew about the legend of JOYBOY, meaning it's possible Kaido has information about JOYBOY that is exclusive to the culture of Lunarians. This may be pure speculation, but the fact remains, Kaido knows about JOYBOY, and he may even be the one to tell us what or who JOYBOY is. He's had a fixation on JOYBOY for years, so it'd be weird not to hear what he's learned during that period. It may even provide clues to the final poneglyph or information about the Void Century. This is a possibility that can't be ruled out and needs to have a resolution. This could even lead into what we're discussing next. The 5 Elders learn of Luffy's awakening. Another event that needs to take place when the arc concludes will be the 5 Elders learning of Luffy's awakening. With Luffy awakening the power of the NIKA fruit, we will surely get front row seats to the reaction of the 5 Elders. With how desperately the leaders want to prevent the fruit from awakening, their meddling in the battle between Luffy and Kaido triggered said awakening. Now we can be sure they'll learn of this revelation since we saw the final CP0 member leave Onigashima back in chapter 1049. CP0 has a direct line to the Elders, so they'll be learning of these events as soon as possible. And when they do hear about what happened, they're gonna be panicking to correct this mistake. Luffy's awakening could lead to him being labeled either the most dangerous man in the world or the most wanted man in the world. This could have Luffy take a title that his father, Dragon, currently has and cement him as a true threat to the world government. I mean, it wouldn't be far-fetched or over the top, seeing as Luffy did just defeat the man with the highest active bounty in the world. This information would be enough to justify this to the general populace and marines of Luffy's threat level. The elders learning of the awakening could also cause them to have another exposition dump. This could lead to more information about the NIKA fruit and perhaps even legends of JOYBOY himself. It probably wouldn't be much, as we have to save most of the really important bits for when we reach Laugh Tale and get a Void Century flashback. As a result of the massive amount of notoriety Luffy will most likely gain from this, we should expect to see his bounty once again skyrocket. While it may not be higher than Roger's, we can assume it'll be as much or even a bit higher than KAIDO'S bounty. This higher bounty would also show us that Luffy is finally being seen as a real threat to the government. It's also possible that the threat of Luffy's powers could have the elders order the government ship stationed outside of WANO to retreat until they get more firepower or come up with a plan. This will get rid of the immediate threat of WANO getting overtaken by the government after how hard the alliance fought to win. With all of WANO's strongest fighters exhausted from the raid, they may not have been able to fight back against a government takeover, meaning WANO would remain its own country while still being open to the rest of the world, perhaps even being considered Luffy's territory as a YONKO after the fact. Speaking of which, the new YONKO revealed. Who will be the next generation of YONKO? Ever since challenging the YONKO became the current goal, we've all begun to speculate about the future ones. Obviously, Luffy would become a YONKO at some point, as he's the main character, and it's the next logical step for him to reach. He's already been deemed the 5th Emperor by Big News Morgans after managing to pick a fight with Big Mom and getting out alive. This was a major accomplishment, since most people that challenge a YONKO tend to either be imprisoned, run away, or even killed afterwards. Next up, we would potentially have Kid be named a YONKO since he battled all 3 of them and defeated one, but also due to the fact that his attack was a major factor in beating Big Mom. An accomplishment that seemed impossible before has now just occurred in a bombastic way. These feats in prior history would be enough to have Kid be named a YONKO along with Luffy. Law could also be deemed worthy of the new title. Despite the battle against Big Mom being a tag team effort, Law's awakening was the thing that dealt the most damage to Big Mom. If it wasn't for the internal damage he dealt to her, he and Kid would have lost the battle a long time ago. On the other hand, we still have Shanks and Blackbeard left, along with the possible return of Big Mom to fight Luffy again, as previously mentioned. But if we're speculating who the new YONKO will be, then it's obvious first will be Luffy, who was named the 5th Emperor by Morgans. Even if it was for a good story and not officially acknowledged, the defeat of Kaido in a one-on-one would solidify Luffy's new status as a YONKO and make him a major threat. It would also make sense for the 3 members of the worst generation to become YONKO after defeating them. It's part of the story that's been building ever since the time skip began. Now, while Luffy becoming a YONKO when WANO officially ends is almost guaranteed, we still don't know if Kid or Law will also gain the title, at least not at this present point in time. However, the possibility is still very likely, and the old guard of emperors is quickly being replaced by the next generation. The next Straw Hat. Which character will become a Straw Hat next? The next Straw Hat has been a constant discussion amongst fans since the arc began, and especially since Yamato entered the story. When Yamato asked Luffy to join the crew, fans began to debate what characters would join after Wano. Right now, the candidates are Momo, Tama, Carrot, and Yamato. These characters all seem to be good additions to the crew and all had set up to join in the future. It makes sense for the next crew member to be added once Wano ends, as this could be the last time a crewmate could be added before the final saga, as Oda stated that we'll enter the final saga after Wano, meaning if we gain a member in a different arc, we won't have much time for them to fully integrate with the crew before the final battle. Starting with Momo, he has been on the ship since Punk Hazard and has a strong bond with the crew. It's been speculated that Momo could be a cabin boy or apprentice pirate for the Straw Hats, similar to Shanks and Buggy on Roger's ship. Though with him being aged up, he may still be an apprentice pirate instead of a cabin boy and may even be Zoro's disciple. That'd be a fun dynamic to see on the Sunny, with Zoro taking on the role of a teacher. Though now that he's likely going to take up the role of Shogun as he was meant to, his chances of joining the crew are pretty slim. Next up is Carrot, who's been with the crew since Whole Cake. Carrot has grown close to the crew just like Momo, and even traveled with them to save Sanji. She's been with the crew for the entirety of Wano, at least until she went off to avenge Pedro. For one, she's always dreamed of traveling the seas and seeing the world. Also, her upbeat and excitable personality feels right at home with the Straw Hats. She may even be a great lookout for the crew, as she could spot enemies from long distances or let the crew know when land is near. A lookout is an important part of any crew, so this works in her favor. Since Carrot would be a good addition to the crew and has been with the crew for a long time, I say her chances of joining at the end of Wano are pretty high. However, she could just as easily realize that she needs to return to Zou and take up Pedro's responsibilities now that he's gone. On to Tama, she might not have the best chances of joining the crew, as there simply isn't much she could offer them. Yeah, she's a ninja, but a young ninja doesn't have any real fighting skills to speak of. She has her devil fruit abilities, yet they can only work on actual animals or smile users. She could still be an apprentice pirate or cabin girl, similar to what Momo could be, but with how the story is progressing, she might be a hindrance to the crew. Tama could surprise us and be fairly strong, but it doesn't seem likely. We could say the same about Momo if he wasn't aged up. Now, the only thing that could make her joining possible is her connection to Ace. If you remember, Ace had promised Tama he'd come back and make her part of his crew, so that she could explore the world. Since Ace is now dead, Luffy could potentially help fulfill his brother's promise and take her along for the rest of the journey. It'd be a sweet way for Luffy to honor his brother's wishes and take the young girl with him. Finally, we have Yamato, a character that's quickly become a fan favorite since her introduction. She might have the strongest chance to join the crew along with Carrot. Unlike Carrot, Yamato hasn't developed a bond with the crew. That could easily change with time though. Yamato is connected to Luffy through Ace and her drive for adventure. Being inspired by Oden and trapped on Onigashima, Yamato wants her freedom and asks Luffy if she could join his crew. This is the first instance of someone asking Luffy to join the crew, instead of Luffy being the one to ask them to join. Yamato is also a strong fighter who could help in future battles, and her personality and jovial attitude makes it seem like she'd fit in right with these Straw Hats. She also has Oden's journal that details Roger's final voyage, which could come in handy. While Luffy would be against using it to get answers to the One Piece, there is also the possibility that it has the location of the final road Poneglyph, making the information necessary to move forward. Yamato could also take the role of the crew's log keeper, essentially being the one to archive the crew's adventure to Laugh Tale, just as Oden did for Roger during his final voyage. This would also give Yamato the opportunity to record the past adventures as well, writing the full story of the Straw Hat Pirates. But yeah, these are all valid candidates for the next member of the crew. All of them have good reasons and motives to join, with some having higher chances than others, so we'll just have to wait and see. The contents of Oden's journal. Oden's journal has been built up to have the answers to many mysteries in the One Piece world. Yamato has stressed the importance of this journal numerous times and is now sharing that information with Momo. Yamato mentions Oden wrote about Momo and even the return of JOYBOY. The journal is a plot device that seems to have a lot of necessary information to uncover the mysteries in the story. We also know a few pages were ripped out, which seem to have important information, and it would make sense that once the arc ends, we would be given information in more detail. The manner of explanation is still unclear, but it's almost guaranteed that soon we'll figure out what the pages contained. The journal may also give us information regarding JOYBOY. However, just like we mentioned with Kaido, the journal won't have all the answers, though we should expect an explanation on why JOYBOY would appear in WANO 20 years in the future. The accuracy of Oden's prediction is astonishing, but we still don't know the method for this precision. We may get this explanation from Yamato, who has read the journal religiously for those 20 years, so it's safe to say we'll be reading the journal sometime soon. Our next destination. After 4 years in WANO, I think we're all eager for what our next destination will be. With how large the new world is, we have many options. However, the next place the Straw Hats will most likely visit is Elbaf. We know this is a popular theory amongst fans, but this makes the most sense at the moment. This location has been hinted at and foreshadowed for a long time, and had even more significance during Whole Cake Island. Big Mom's flashback gave us a lot of world building for this island in regards to their traditions and general way of life, so heading there seems like a natural step forward. Not to mention Usopp still wants to head there in hopes of becoming a true warrior of the sea. All I can say is that if Elbaf is going to be our next destination, then we're going to have a blast. It feels as though we may get more lore in regards to the Sun God, and the connection with Luffy's NIKA fruit there. Not to mention the potential return of giant characters that we haven't seen since before the time skip. I mean, imagine if Dory and Broggy are there to greet the crew. I think we'd all be jumping for joy. Anyway, Elbaf could be a video on its own, so we won't go much further with it. Thank you so much for watching the video until the end. Until next time, keep that plumber on you. I'm KJ. Have a great day. Goodbye.